Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome to this snowy edition in Cincinnati, Ohio's version of the Clown Hour. I'm your host, Scott Burks, and on tonight's show, we're going to get into a lot like concerning the Super Bowl, who was more responsible, Tom Brady, Todd Bowles, and this defensive game plan. Did Kansas City screw it up themselves? We'll also get into like some more quarterbacks being possibly on the move. Carson Wentz, and also maybe Russell Wilson's explaining his voicing his displeasure. We all know what's going on with Deshaun Watson. And we're also going to cover Black History moments in sports. We're going to continue with that series throughout the month of February. And if we have time, we may get into some Mark Cuban and the whole national anthem scenario, what to make of that. And we'll probably get into some random shit along the way. So without further ado, let's get to it. And again, please get the merch and also subscribe to my channel. Please and thank you. Good morning, guys. Good evening, wherever you are, wherever you may be. Welcome to the snowy edition of the Clown Hour podcast. I'm your boy, Scott Burks. But below me is my man, Dwayne Nash, my co-host. Please check him out on the yard such HBCU Sports, reps of all things HBCU Sports, as well as Sleazy Radio every Tuesday night on Facebook Live. Also, check out his good work on herosports.com, where he talks about all things FCS sports as it pertains to HBCUs. And as for your boy here, please check out my podcast. But my blog, The Clown Times, is Clown spelled with K, at www.theclowntimes.net. Find me on Facebook as well. Just search for The Clown Times. You'll find me acting the fool there, me and my friends and fans or whatever, acting the fool there as well as pertains to the Super Bowl and wherever's going on in sports. And last but not least, two things. Please subscribe to the channel. Just click on the subscribe button on the lower right-hand corner. Feel free to comment in the comment below. That help us a lot. And as well as one more thing, get the merch.
Get the merch.
At cafepress.com, search for the Clown Town Sports. It's all one word. The address will be in the comments after this podcast. You find us there as well. So we got a guest. One of our favorite guys going to hang out with us tonight, going to talk some shop about the Super Bowl and quarterback issues, and also participate in this Black History and sports special we have going all month. You see him on the podcast before with our other buddy. So welcome back to the podcast with Rashad Myers, track coach extraordinaire, Catholic University's finest. Rashad, what's going on, brother?
All is well, bro.
All right.
Happy back here with you guys and then chop
We're
it up.
happy to have you back. Happy to have you back,
Yes,
man.
sir.
Want to have most of y'all back. Well, also throughout at least throughout the Black History Month as we celebrate Black History in sports. So we're definitely going to do that. So, right quick, fellas, the Super Bowl. We all saw the Super Bowl. I'm sure most of us, if not all of us, are shocked about how the Super Bowl went down. I was like, what the hell? Just watching, I was like, what? Huh? Kansas City didn't get in the end zone? Patrick Mahomes had two interceptions, got sacked 3 times, got knocked around like a piñata. Tom Brady did his thing in the Super Bowl, albeit with modest stats, but 3 touchdown passes at age 43.
Mm-hmm.
Also turned back the hands of time with hooking up with his boy Rob Gronkowski. 2 touchdown receptions in the Super Bowl, especially the second one was a thing of beauty, man. You could tell the rapport they have. Right, when he came back to the ball in the end zone, I'm like, damn, Gronk is going off, man. So imagine this. Imagine, what if I told you that Mike Evans will have 1 catch for 36 yards? What if I told you that Chris Godwin have 2 catches for not but 2 or 3 catches for not but so many yards?
Mm-hmm.
You think Kansas City will win an ass whooping, right? But then, but follow me. But that doesn't take into account of the aforementioned Gronk, as well as Leonard Fournette just going off.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, that defense, man, Todd Bowles, if he doesn't get a job after next season, something's really wrong. That dude has earned a shot at a second opportunity, hopefully with a better opportunity, with better organization. But that's not a here nor there. But the point is, dude made Kansas City look like Pittsburgh near the end of the season on offense. made them very pedestrian, just made Kansas City look like fools on offense, made Andy Reid look like a bigger fool. So all this to say this, I'll kick it to you, Rashad, and we'll do the whole clockwise thing and say this, man. There's plenty of props to go around, as rightfully so with Tampa, but who should get more of the credit, man? Should it be Tom Brady or should it be how Todd Bowles called a masterful game on defense?
If you ask me, man, it's more about Todd Bowles. As much as I like Brady and as much as he cemented himself as the GOAT with now 7 Super Bowl championships
out of 10,
that defensive performance was masterful. And I say that because, I mean, when you think about how they limited the most explosive offense in the NFL and just kind of kept them, like you said, to a pedestrian performance, you know, that was masterful. I mean, he mixed it up the entire time with his coverages. He called a great game, and so you could see the two-shell look. He was kind of getting through him, and it was a great performance by that defense. Tom Brady, when you look, I mean, Tom Brady was Tom Brady. He did what he did. He didn't turn the ball over, right? And he made a couple great throws here and there. But I mean, when you think about it, he had, I think, a little over 200 yards in passing. I mean, you think about that,
correct.
If you were to say Tom Brady would only have a little over 200 yards passing in the Super Bowl, you might think that, you know, Tampa Bay either would lose or would barely win. But I mean, that defense, I think, deserves a lot of credit. I mean, Winfield, you think about the linebackers, you know, just to me, it was
they did the damn thing.
Effort. Even the D-line, they got after that.
Yes, they did.
That Chiefs offensive line. And you think with them losing both tackles, you know, that really hurt them because, you know, Mahomes was running for his life really the entire time. And so to me, that defense really kind of stepped up. You know, the offense did its thing as well. A couple touchdown passes, but I was very, very proud of that defense.
Yeah, that was the thing. I mean, they just made Kansas City look so ordinary. I mean, that's why where the props go. How about you, D? I know you're chomping at the bit right quick about that.
Man, so I have a ranking system on who gets the most props for this particular game, right? So of course, top tier goes to Todd Bowles and that defense. As bewildered as that defense has looked in spots throughout the majority of the year, right? Because this is a defense that I talked about in the beginning of the season that was very respectable, especially based upon what was going on with Jameis Winston turning the ball over and giving them short fields and having to defend in short field situations. Yeah, and that's why their stats were low, but at least they were doing the best that they could, right? But you could also tell that they were growing and getting an understanding of Todd Bowles and his defensive scheme. But as the year went on and they started to realize how much pressure they can get with that front four, that front five, with Shaq Barrett, Vita Vea, and Ndamukong Suh, JPP, you get those 4 or 5 guys, you know, not necessarily even blitzing all the time, because according to the numbers, they only blitz 10% of the time. They was just basically, you know, doing a regular rush the 90% of the other time, and they were still putting pressure on Patrick Mahomes. So you do that, and you leave the other guys to play zone, which is something that they've done the entire playoffs, which was mind-boggling to me that at this point, well, not necessarily mind-boggling, it's more of a testament to how much of a loss what's his name? Eric, the old tackle.
Eric Winston.
Eric Fisher, I'm sorry. Fisher. Yes. How much of a loss Eric Fisher was on that offensive line. Now, we talked about the right tackle a little bit, but he was gone for the majority of the season. Same thing with their starting center, who was out, you know, being a great Samaritan and being a doctor and taking care of COVID situations. But that loss of Eric Fisher, it almost seemed as though that entire whole line would just broke down completely, and they couldn't protect Patrick Mahomes to save his life, almost literally. and he did not have the time to necessarily throw deep balls. And the times in which he did, he was throwing them at obscure angles.
Falling to the ground one time.
Oh my God, man! There was
him in the face mask.
And still, he was 30 yards falling.
He was still getting the ball off, right? And because I don't even think the receivers believed that he was going to get the ball off and did. So applaud them, especially for making that offense score its lowest point total within the Patrick Mahomes era. 9 points, no touchdowns. Insane. Number 2, of course, goes to, the DC native. God, it's bad that I forget his name that quick already. Byron Leftwich, the offensive coordinator for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Yes.
And that offense, like you said, the Kansas City did a wonderful job doing whatever they could to hold Evans and Godwin from allowing them to kill them, and said, hey, if you're going to beat us, you're going to beat us with everybody else. And oddly enough, that's what happened. Because, Gronk didn't necessarily have big numbers throughout the year, but, you put him in that situation. He's not like he hasn't done it before.
Right.
He did it again. So Gronk was the old Gronk that we were used to seeing, and they played well. I mean, they didn't necessarily need a lot of passing yards either way because, once again, the running game went well with Leonard Fournette and Robert Jones.
Yeah.
But number 3 goes to Carl Schaefer's and that officiating crew. There were a lot of questionable calls in that game. I tell you, fellas, it's bad when my mom comes to me and says some of them calls were questionable. I'm not saying my mama dumb, but when she thinks that calls are questionable in a sport, calls might be a little questionable. And then to make it even more interesting, Schaefer's has a history with the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't know if you guys knew that.
With the ref?
Like a lot of yes.
Okay, I know that.
Like the most calls that they've received this year were behind Schaefer and his crew. And then, of course, Scott, you remember this, the playoff game against Pittsburgh, where the infamous holding call that stopped the Chiefs from beating Pittsburgh, that led to the Chiefs, that led to Pittsburgh beating them, what was it, 2016?
Yeah, that's when we scored a number of field goals, and it was very low scoring affair with Alex Smith. Quarterback. I remember that.
An extremely low scoring affair. Carl Schaefer's was on that crew as well. So Schaefer's has a thing. I'm not saying conspiracy theory there, but it just happens to be whenever the Chiefs have a lot of penalties, Carl Schaefer's is there. So it's just weird that happens. But some of those calls were questionable. But at the same time, man, it just seems as though that the officiating and the bad play calling on the defensive side of the ball for Kansas City got to a lot of the defensive players mentally, which allowed them to get beat physically and mentally, which is something that you really don't want to see, especially in a Super Bowl game.
Remember, and speaking of coaching decisions, bad coaching decisions, y'all remember like at near the end of the first half where like the Chiefs inexplicably called a timeout?
Yes.
Well, as if they did not pay attention to the previous weeks of what Tampa did on offense in the year and a half. What do they like to do at the end of the first half whenever they can? Tom Brady likes to go long.
Try to beat you deep, yeah.
Right. He likes to go long. He had to use to what you said, Dwayne, beat him deep, beat you deep, or draw a PI.
Mm-hmm.
One of the two things was going to happen if you on defensive properly. And so that's what happened both times. Now, I said a timeout because, like, remember when, and this is just a bad penalty. When Tampa lined to kick a field goal to make it 17-9, would have made it 17-9.
Mm-hmm.
Why was that Bama lineup offsides? This is shades of what's his name? I forget his last name, that pass rusher, where they lost to New England. Yeah, Frank. Yeah, where they lost to New England 3 seasons ago.
Mm-hmm.
Would have gone to the Super Bowl 3 years ago.
Yeah.
And that call bailed them out and gave New
Yes,
England.
because it was an interception.
Yes.
And they bailed him out because that fool was lined up way off sides.
Yep.
So, Rashad.
Yes.
Do you know who it was, Rashad?
No, who was it?
I think it was Antonio Hamilton.
Oh man, I know you.
I think it was Antonio Hamilton, dog.
Man,
Oh my God.
Man.
Yeah. I know he received a penalty, and I knew it was a penalty that saved them from a situation. So I don't remember whether or not it was the field goal attempt. No, it was a punt. That's what it was. It was a punt. So I take that back. He doesn't get that one, but yeah, there was a punt in which he was called for that ended up giving Tampa Bay the first down and extending that drive. Yeah, I felt bad for him too.
Wow.
He had a little bad for him.
Now, is he a Kaplan graduate or something?
No. He graduated from South Carolina State.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, which is right next door to Claflin. That's Orangeburg. So yeah, I went to college in that town, and I followed that program really closely.
Okay.
A lot of my good buddies that I played high school ball with, played at South Carolina State. So I know quite a few of those guys.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was the killer.
Yeah.
They're about to go up 17-9, then line up off sides of the field goal attempt. They take of course, you don't take the points, you go for the touchdown.
Of course.
They called a timeout before doing that try. They would have run out of time. And they called a timeout. And what does that Brady do? He goes back and he finds Antonio Brown in the corner of the end zone. I'm like, yo.
A lot of people refer that to Andy being Philly Andy at that moment. Yeah, they said, Philly Andy is back.
Oh, from the Eagles days. Oh, man.
That was so many things that was uncharacteristic of them to me. Like you said, you rarely see Andy, kind of not thrive in those kind of situations. Even with Mahomes, like there were a couple of his passes, not to anything of his fault, but like even with Tyreek Hill, one that hit him right in the face mask, that he normally fakes, 99 out of 100 times and comes down with that ball.
Kelsey had to drop like that too.
Right. Like a couple of those that, very catchable balls, plays they normally make, but they just couldn't for some reason. And so it was not a typical Kansas City night in terms of the domination that we normally see from them. Yeah.
Well, how about this, fellas? Remember, we're not professionals, right? But we follow football very closely. And we all know whether we've been playing Madden or watching their football, if a team goes out with cover two, what's the most effective way to get the team out of a cover two? You run the ball. Yep. You keep running the ball. I don't care if you get 1 or 2 yards. You keep running the ball because eventually you're going to cause that safety to drift down, right? Yep. And then you're going to have man coverage.
Mm-hmm.
But what Tampa did, I mean, props to them for learning from the first time they played against them and went away from man, they covered two. But Kansas City, even when they started the second half, when they came out running the ball more and they were driving, but all of a sudden they just forgot about the run on that same drive. They were moving the ball on the ground and they started to chuck the ball around. I'm like, what are y'all doing?
I agree because I thought Clyde Edwards-Helaire ran the ball pretty well, especially in the early going of the game. But it's like they went away from it. So I didn't understand. Maybe that's them being, the Chiefs, kind of pass happy and jumping the gun, so to speak. But yeah, I agree with that point. Definitely.
They would have gotten them out of zone and they would have gone man, and that would have played in KC's advantage because in that case, he could just chuck the ball up to Kelsey or Romani Cheetah. You know what I mean? So Tyreek Hill, because that took away. So basically, the Tampa's game plan was, we're going to take away everything deep. We're going to take away Tyreek Hill. We're going to make you nickel and dime us. Maybe take away Kelsey too to an extent.
Yeah, they doubled both of them pretty much the entire game, and they said, make somebody else beat us.
Yeah, and they couldn't respond. They didn't respond. So instead of running the ball and causing them to get it out of it and drop a safety down, they play into Tampa's hands. And but I would say this, Dwayne, and I'm glad you mentioned about Byron Leftwich because he doesn't get enough love, in my opinion.
No, he doesn't.
I mean, the way he called that game, and he did it during a year where there was no offseason because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
He and Tom Brady had to get together in all sorts of weird ways. Tom Brady showed up to his house. He didn't get enough reps in, and they were learning each other on the fly throughout the season. And Arians lets both his lieutenants call all the plays to his credit. And so the way the way Leftwich just did it, he mixed it up. I think they rushed 145 yards against Kansas City. And so they just mixed it up here and there. They never got one-dimensional, never panicked.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a credit to, John Brady, obviously, he executed. Obviously, he's the GOAT. But I think not enough love, Rashad, goes to Byron Leftwich, what he did. And hopefully that puts him into the line of hopefully getting a job as well with his next season, the season after next.
Right. Scott, if you don't mind me chiming in real quick, you know what that was reminiscing of to me, that iconic drive that they showed so many times where Byron Leftwich, this is back when he was at Marshall. He's hurt, he's injured, and he can barely get down the field, and he's limping, but still, carrying the team. And his two linemen, kind of carry him down the field. It was that same type of grit I think he called that game with. And, like you said, it was masterful, man. And so big shots to Byron Leftwich. Shout outs to him. I agree with you. I don't think he gets enough credit for what he's done. And imagine the pressure. I mean, they're still men, but the pressure of bringing in arguably the greatest of all time, who's kind of a coach in his own right and knows football inside out. And with the competitiveness of both of them making that work, and looks like they put the egos aside. I just think we need to remember that dynamic as well, because both of them are, quarterbacks and very sharp minds. But It seems like they put everything aside to chase that championship, and lo and behold, they got it.
I'll tell you what, man, I never thought, and it's not a detriment to Byron Leftwich in my opinion of him, because I remember obviously with Jacksonville, he was a backup at Pittsburgh for many years, played well in both places, in my opinion. But I never thought I'd see the day where Byron Leftwich would become a coach, let alone offensive coordinator on this level. Right. I mean, he came up pretty quick, which is great. You can see he earned it. And this goes back to, I kept saying this from last week too, and week before that, we were talking about black coaches. Bruce Arians it's all about opportunity, right? Mm-hmm. Bruce Arians naming all of his top lieutenants are brothers, giving those brothers the opportunities to shine. In the case of Todd Bowles, a second chance. Mm-hmm. Not many coaches black coaches who fail at the previous stop gets a second chance, let alone another high-profile D corner spot in the NFL. Mm-hmm. That goes back to connections that he had with Todd Bowles from Temple when Bruce Arians coached him at Temple, when he coached at Temple University back in the day. So, again, it goes to show you that you use the connections and the opportunities, and they're still in the pipeline. So hopefully both Bowles and Leftwich, the next couple of seasons in the case of Bowles, get a second chance. I think he'll get a second chance sooner rather than later. But I think Leftwich is in the pipeline now. He's another hot name now. So good for those brothers, and let's just hope it continues.
Most definitely. But real quick, one thing about both assistant coaches, right? First and foremost, no disrespect to Byron Leftwich. Matter of fact, he actually said this during the interview because, of course, he's a local guy, so he's done a lot of TV here. He comes from a part of town where there's not a lot expected from those type guys, right? Sure. He said it himself that he didn't necessarily expect it to live past 30. So that's how rough the neighborhood that he comes from. He comes from, part of town that I grew up in originally, right? The high school he went to was necessarily known as one of the better high schools, but of course they have great athletic talent that come from out of that school. And for him to go to Marshall and succeed there, make it to the NFL and be an anomaly that way, for him to do that, play in the league as long as he did, and then eventually end up becoming an assistant up to an offensive coordinator is something that a lot of people didn't know whether or not he had the wherewithal to do because of his career. He didn't necessarily have the worst career, but he didn't have the best, right? Mm-hmm. Especially based upon where he was drafted. But that was mainly because of who he played for and a lot of injuries that he had to deal with. It's not to say that he couldn't coach the game. And as we're starting to learn with talent, this dude can do it, right? Right. So hopefully he does get an opportunity. And as it pertains to Todd Bowles, who of course has HBCU background, originally being hired by his former Washington football teammate, Doug Williams at Morehouse. and then eventually following Doug to Grambling, and then coming up through the ranks and becoming an NFL head coach. I'm hoping that the stench of what happened with him in New York gets off of him, so that he can get another opportunity. Because, you know, I checked to see if he had social media, and unfortunately he doesn't have a Twitter account, but there are a lot of fake Todd Bowles accounts trying to get him fired that are New York based, because of course there are a lot of people who thought he didn't deserve the job there, even though, of course, as we already discussed, unfortunately, he didn't get a lot of help from ownership and general manager there in order to help him succeed. But yeah, like I said before, I hope that stench gets off him so that he can get an opportunity as well.
I'll just say one more thing before we get to the next segment. Y'all can chime in. For those folks out there who think that Todd Bowles set the blueprint for Kansas City, nah. Because again, as we said earlier, man, the best way to be the cover two defense is to run the ball.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they got the talent, and they'll get all the offensive linemen back. But as long as if another team tries to run cover two, all they got to do is run them to death.
But you know what? And that's one of the benefits of what happens with Tampa is the fact that defense, the best rush defense in the league, holding teams to 80 yards per game, they can play rush. They can play they can play rush defense with that cover two defense because of the linebackers that they have and the speed that they have. Yeah. So they can get back and cover. But then once they realize that it's going to be a run, they'll go ahead and get right back and defend that run, as well as that front two, if you will, because they play what, a 2-5, a 2-4-5 defense.
Oh yeah, because it was like a Dominican Sue, right, and the other cat.
Sue and Vea played the front,
and then JPP on the other side, and Shot Barrett.
Yeah, right, they technically had them listed as outside linebackers. So yeah, they run like a 2-5-4 or 2-4-5 or something weird like that. But technically, you know, it still is a 6-man front, right? With 5 defending. But it just happens to be that those linebackers are capable of covering based upon what play is called. But yeah, that's the reason why probably. I mean, still, Allaire still rushed 7 yards per carry.
Yes.
And the fact that they didn't run him more, he only ran the ball 9 times. He ran the ball 9 times. But I guess they just gave up on the run. And plus they were down by so much that they just kept attempting to try the passing game. But once again, Philly Andy showed up. So
so much for last year's Super Bowl cleansing that palate, if you will, wash away those sins.
Well, like you said, when that offensive line returns, that should end up getting them back to KC Andy again.
Yeah.
Y'all see the press conference where the guy mistook Byron Leftwich for Todd Bowles?
Yeah. What's his name? Reposted that Emmanuel Acho from Speak for Yourself.
Yeah, they
tweeted that out.
Made it a big thing, and wanted to make it a race issue, and people had their opinions on it, saying the guy, you being a media, having media credentials, you should know the difference between Todd Bowles and Byron Leftwich. How they look, who they are. They were saying basically that he did it because they were both black, trying to say black people all look like it. They went a lot of different places with it. But I was just wondering if you guys saw that, because I thought that was interesting as well. And I thought he handled it very well. He was like,
he did. He handled it.
He got that defense right to stop, stop the Chiefs. So yeah.
He handled it with aplomb. He did a great job on that. Yeah.
Oh, most definitely. But I'll say this though, Rashad, for a guy who does media, and can be a dummy, the way that I resolve that, I let everybody else ask a question or two, and while they're asking questions, I'll listen and pay attention and figure out who it is. Right?
Yeah.
That's the way to do it.
That. Right.
That's the way to do it. But they also say who it is that's being interviewed before the interview starts.
Yes, thank you.
So it's not
they announce it.
They announce it. Pay attention, dude.
Right.
Oh my God. I mean, I understand it's a mistake. Mistakes happen. I get it. but there are ways to elude it. And dude, that's my biggest fear when I do media is that I hate asking questions that could be perceived as being dumb, even by me, right?
Yeah.
Even though they're questions that people ask anyway because they still want to get some sort of answer or response from someone, sometimes hoping to get gold. I don't ask those questions because I don't want to look like a dummy, and then I most definitely don't want to call nobody by the wrong name. God no. But yeah, there are ways to get around that.
You know what? It's still the worst question. So many years later, was when Stud Fool asked Doug Williams how long has it been a black quarterback?
Wow.
Right before they played Denver.
Yeah.
I remember that. How old was I? Was I 10, 11 years old?
Nah, you were a little bit older than 11 because I was 12.
Okay, I was probably 14. So that's 1987, I guess, 88. But
I was gonna say I don't remember that, but apparently I was just born because I was born in '86.
like I told you earlier, I'm a little bit older than you.
Oh, Rashad was straight Fresh. He was fresh. Yo, that's fresh.
Fresh out the womb, man.
Yeah, that's that question. Asked Doug Williams how long has been a black quarterback. That's still the worst, most egregious question of all time. That's just
but once again, Rashad, it's one of those questions that that dude really wasn't thinking and was trying to get an answer. And of course, thank God Doug gave him that a proper response with that. But yeah,
do you guys remember what his response was? Because
I don't. I just remember the hubbub about the whole thing.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That would have been.
I gotta look that up. It's somewhere on YouTube. I know it has to be somewhere on YouTube.
It's on YouTube. It has to be.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So speaking of, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say I got to look into that because I'm interested to see how Doug Williams responded. That's a great story, though.
I'm gonna look it up after this podcast. Maybe look it up after this ends and talk to y'all. But anyway, speaking of quarterbacks, I never thought I'd see the day the NFL will turn to the NBA in terms of player movement and player empowerment in terms of dictating where you want to go. First, we all know it's Deshaun Watson, right? He wants out of the shithole that's the Houston Texans organization, and I don't blame him. From things I've read, we've all read about what's going on in Houston for the past few years, plural. Also, now you got your boy, Dwayne, Carson Wentz went out of Philly.
Yeah.
The fact he had many years left on his contract, and the fact that he has a huge cap number. I didn't think Philly would look to move him, but I guess he said he looked at what Deshaun's doing and said, well, bump this. I could do this shit too. And won out. And the word on the street is he's about to be traded sooner rather than later. Yeah. And we've seen both Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff be traded for one another. Where Jared Goff, traded for one another. And I didn't think the Reds would be able to move off of that contract. So you see now that quarterbacks and players, well, it has to be quarterbacks, right? But quarterbacks realizing how much power they have, and that if they're not happy, they gotta do what they gotta do to get the organization, put pieces around them or whatnot. You've already seen what Russell Wilson's saying, right? He's saying he's fed up because he's getting hit too much. He's fed up with the offensive philosophy and all that. So I'm not going, damn. Right. They say what James Harden did in Houston. Now they're doing NFL, but. You about to say something, Rashad? Yeah,
I was just gonna say, and now just to add to what you were saying, the news with Dak Prescott about the hype video that Dak and how he was unhappy.
That was an oversight.
And now I don't buy too much into social media stuff, but now they're talking about how he's now following another football team or something on one of his social media accounts, and how players really don't ever do that, and it kind of looks like they're being disloyal. And so there's some rumblings about Dak. I mean, we know he hasn't gotten a long-term deal yet, and everything's kind of been up in the air about him and his camp reaching terms with the Cowboys, and them franchising them a couple years. And so it's crazy, man. Player movement is ridiculous now, man, and it's like you said, a whole nother league of in and of itself.
The NFL has worked so hard to keep this from happening over the years. They've hamstrung the players. They've taken it to the clearance of every CBA negotiation. They have no guaranteed contracts. They have the franchise tag, the treasury tag. They put the kibosh on players. They were very hard to do this over the years. A lot of people blame Gene Upshaw, but it is what it is, right? Like the late Gene Upshaw. But to see it now, starting to turn again. Matthew Stafford dealt with Jared Goff, swap places. Now you see Deshaun. So that, and I think Shannon Sharp or someone said this, that teams around, owners around the league are hoping and praying that Houston holds the line with Deshaun. Because if Deshaun gets what he wants at the signing extension, before the extension kicks in, but at the signing extension, if they can hold on to him, and you see what's going on with Carson Wentz, potentially Russell Wilson.
They know if Deshaun gets out, that's going to open up a whole nother can of worms, and that's going to be a trickle effect, and they're thinking it might get out of hand with other people thinking they can take the same approach and, kind of wiggle their way out of contracts and in 2 other cities. And so I'm pretty sure they're hoping that Deshaun will stay in Houston and hold forth.
But see, that's the thing. And I say this on the show all the time, right? I hate to beat my chest when I say something that's kind of prophetic, but I don't. Because I said it on this show, actually, that this type of activity is very NBA-esque. So I'll go ahead and give this show credit, and you credit Scott for inspiring me to think that way. Because I'm not normally a genius outside of the show. It's normally when I get here in front of this camera and talk to you. So that's where that comes from. But yeah, and you said it before, and everyone else has been saying it ever since. I mean, hey, if you doubt me, go back and listen to the tapes. Go back a couple of years ago. I said it on here first. But still, yes, it's very NBA-esque. And the thing is, and we've said it here on the show as well, it's only up in positions of need, because we've seen other great players we've seen owners and GMs say, hey, you don't want to play for the contract that we got for you? You can go to the crib. Right. Ricky Waters. And we've seen other people after him get told, hey, you don't want to play for the contract you got? Go to the crib. Right. But being that quarterback is such a position of need in this league, and you just can't just pluck a QB out of college or get an undrafted free agent QB and have them run your organization, because as has been said time and time again, the quarterback is the most important position in professional sports here in America. Because any other spot is replaceable, or you can get that responsibility on someone else and you go win that way. But in the NFL, it's rare that a team can win with a bad QB. It's very rare. It's not impossible.
Yeah, 2 examples: the Ravens and the Buccaneers.
Oh my God, yes, right.
Ray Lewis.
But even that Buccaneers squad with Brad Johnson. Brad Johnson is a comparable.
Yeah, he is pretty good that season. He had a good Super Bowl too. Yeah.
And he's had good seasons. And he's had good seasons after, unlike Tom Flacco. But I digress, right? Yeah. But yeah, the QB position is such a position of need, and everybody don't have it. Matter of fact, we just did a hot seat on this last night on Sleazy Sports. You can go check it out on Facebook Live on our Facebook account, where we did the quarterback carousel. And based upon the information that we talked about last night, there's 17 teams that are greatly in need, or not greatly in need, but are in quarterback purgatory right now, because they don't know exactly what's going to go on with their starting QB. Now, teams like Pittsburgh and Green Bay, there are talks on whether or not those guys are going to come back, but they're still kind of hovering within that purgatory of just in case if they don't want to stay and take less money, what are we going to do? And then, of course, all of a sudden, Seattle burst into that boat as well. So that's 20 teams out of 32 teams that don't have concrete stability at the quarterback spot, which lets you know it's very hard to get a good QB. And they already, like we said, you already know that you can't win without one. Well, it's hard to win without one. Right. So
look at Carolina.
Look
at Carolina. Teddy Bridgewater. And I just saw that we tried to get rid of him and get Matthew Stafford. It didn't
right.
didn't come out initially, but later, once he was already, traded to the Rams, it surfaced that, we actually had talks and tried to get him. The only thing that kind of set it back was, I think one of the reports we had to do, and then come to find out the Rams took a better deal. But we tried to get that as well, man. So yeah.
How close
that's
we
the
get?
thing. Go ahead,
No,
Scott.
I was going to ask Rashad right quick. How close were your Panthers to landing Matthew Stafford? Do you remember?
It was very close. We had a deal that a package that we put together that the Rams were pretty much interested in, and we're thinking about taking. But I guess
Wow. I didn't know it was that close.
Detroit slipped in and came with something a little stronger. But it was very close. I think it came down to, it was almost to the point to where, like, they were, the only thing that would have been standing in the way was his paperwork and the physical. And then right at the last second.
Wow, the Rams swooped in.
Yeah, they said McVay liked the other deal, Detroit's deal, a little bit better, and that was it. And so, we're stuck right now in quarterback purgatory. And I mean, not to belittle Bridgewater, but apparently we don't think he's the answer. Giving him all that money and then now trying to go out and, get it any other quarterback we can. I mean, but it's not his fault. I mean, we're transitioning and rebuilding. We have to figure out what we're doing ourselves first.
Right.
So, yeah.
But see, three positives in the Bridgewater situation at least, right? One, he actually had a respectable season this past year.
Right.
Two, he's not making more than 20 mil. And when you look at starting QBs in this league right now, the going rate is at least 22 to 25.
Yeah. Right.
So if you can get you a QB around that or less than that, man, you're winning. Because, of course, the more comparable QBs and some lesser ones are getting at least 30 or more. And that's the thing, because those are the guys right now who are like, okay, you know what? If I don't like the situation I'm currently in and I can leave, I'm going to go ahead and force my way. And that's the whole beauty of this situation, that, one, the NFL doesn't necessarily have to worry about the NFL going that complete route, because it's only, like I said before, with positions of need. And I don't know off the top of my head another position that could potentially get away with it. The only other spot that I can think of is probably the tackle spot.
Mm-hmm.
And that's more so the tackle that protects that QB's blind side based upon the QB that you have. So, of course, primarily that would be the left tackle. But I don't know if we're going to see that anytime soon coming from an O-lineman. Well, no, we did. We actually did. We saw that with Trent Williams.
You're about to say,
this past year.
Yeah.
With him wanting his way out of Washington. So, those are the only two positions where, but that was more so him really being disgruntled and not wanting to play with the organization, and the organization saying, plus the way his deal was. I think he had 1 year left, and had he if he wanted to sit out, he could have just sat out, and then Washington wouldn't have got any compensation whatsoever. Right. So it was more so beneficial for them to go ahead and trade him and get compensation in that spot. But I think that tackle spot might be the next to be able to do it. But quarterback is most definitely the spot to do it in the NFL.
So Dwayne, real quick, where does Washington go quarterback wise? Where does Washington go? I mean, you let Haskins go. Alex Smith, we know, he's still, I think, a little bit hobbled. Heineke. What's your perspective on that?
Well, as of right now, of course, well, as of today, really, Heineke was re-signed today, 2 years, $8.2 million.
Yeah.
So for $4 million a year, right, it's very modest. There are a lot of backups that get more than that. So it's fantastic.
I remember him in Carolina. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh man, with the way that dude. I once again, I said it on the show before. I heard his ODU coach come on local radio and talk about him and his playing ability, right? And unfortunately, I didn't necessarily get a chance to see him play in Carolina. So based off of his description, I was hyped.
He did a pretty good job whenever, because he backed up Cam. There were a couple he played, and he was very serviceable. He didn't turn the ball over a lot. He wasn't Cam, but at the same time, he didn't lose us the game.
He did his job. He did his
exactly.
job. He did his job.
The only question with him and with Alex, who are the only two QBs that are currently on the paid on the roster, is their health and how long they can stay healthy. Mm-hmm. You know, we saw that Heineke dealt with some issues within a playoff game where he was hobbled toward the end of the game. And apparently he has a history of being hurt when he was in Carolina as well. But the thing is, excuse me, he knows Smith's offense and it's thriving in it. And the fact that he was willing to sign here in Washington because the OC here was the only one to really believe in him from the beginning speaks volumes on one, his faith and wanting to continue to grow within that offense, and two, finally for what's here in DC, them bringing back their own. Now, as it pertains to Alex, what he's going to do, we're still waiting to hear, I guess, within the next month, whether or not he wants to continue playing or not. And then from there, I guess Washington will decide whether or not it's worth the juice to keep him or go ahead and cut him and take that $19-20 million cap hit. But either way, it's going to be very interesting to see what they do beyond that, because there's still some belief that they're going to go after at least another mid-range QB to go ahead and compete with Alex Smith if he decides to stay, and Tyler Heineke.
Let me close this segment off on this. On the scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the least likely and 5 being the most likely, are the following quarterbacks to change addresses for this coming season. Deshaun Watson, what's the likelihood? Rashad, I'll start with you. D Nice, you pick it up.
That's a tough one. I'd say 3. I'd say 3.
You're on the fence.
Because I really think ownership is going to drag this out and make this tough for him. I just have that feeling. And, with him having a long-term deal that he has, I know he won't retire. He's dead set on that. But I think they're going to make it tough for him. I'd take 3 for Watson.
How about you, D?
Rashad takes 3. I'm taking 1. I know they really want to go ahead and try to keep him here and try to convince him to stay here under David Cawley, and I don't know how that's going to necessarily work out. Oh my God! Based upon what we've seen with Cawley in the past, it's kind of a dumpster fire right there. So I'm hoping better with that. But according to what's being said by the front office there in Houston, they don't want to get rid of him. And then of course it's alleged their asking price is a little steep, which it's kind of like they're saying, hey, Miami, we want our stuff back. But in order to do that, they're going to have to get rid of a guy who doesn't want to be there anymore. And then Miami's going to have to be willing to take on that contract and then have him compete with Tua or potentially move Tua as well.
Move Tua, yeah.
Right. Yeah, so it's going to be a very interesting thing to see if they do that. And if they do move on, it's going to have to be a situation that's done before the draft. Right. But I really doubt that they do that unless somebody comes with a very, very good deal. And the question is, who's going to panic? Because I really believe at this point, everyone else is waiting to see how the other dominoes fall before they even approach. At least another 1 or 2 dominoes, those dominoes being Derrick Carr and Carson Wentz. Once those guys make a move, then I think everyone else will try to make a move on the likes of, say, Deshaun Watson, Marcus Mariota. Who else is Matt Ryan is said to kind of be in that quarterback carousel. Yeah. And then whether or not Pittsburgh is completely sold on Big Ben. Right. I know he wants to restructure his deal. That was the funny thing, right?
We shouldn't be.
See,
we shouldn't be. He counts 41%. He counts 41 mil. I'm sorry, D. I didn't mean to cut you off.
That's fine.
He counts $41 million against the salary cap. You gotta ask yourself this question: Are you going to be good with them? The answer is probably they're going to be okay, but they're not going to be better than Baltimore. They're not going to be better than Cleveland. I never thought I'd hear myself say that. They're not going to be better than Cleveland.
Wow.
Right? The Cleveland's better than they are. Baltimore's better than they are. I don't care if we swept them last year. Baltimore's right now is better than we are. And if they get the Cincinnati gets their shit together here and gets and gets the stud that they do have and Joey Burrow, if they get him an offensive line, they got the skill positions.
Mm-hmm.
If they get him an offensive line, we're probably not better than they are on offense either. So just whip the damn Band-Aid off and start over. Just build, just use the salary use the 41 mil to build around Mason Rudolph, right? Draft some offensive linemen, draft the running back, improve it. Well, the defense is nice. So let's keep the depth there, but improve on the offensive line, get a running back, and see how Mason does. If he does great, wonderful. If not, then we'll be in the position of a quarterback anyway. But we're out of that $41 million like anchor that's around our necks. That's not what I think. I just rip the Band-Aid off and start. Because we're not beating Kansas City, we're not beating Indianapolis, we're not beating Tennessee, we're definitely not beating Buffalo. They kicked their asses twice, year after year. And we're not even better than the Chargers. So again, just rip the damn Band-Aid off, start over.
I'm gonna go ahead and say this again because I said it on this show a lot. That sounds like a whole lot of Steeler angst to me, and I completely understand. I know how that happens, right? But before the season ended, the front office was basically saying if Big Ben wants to stay, he's going to have to restructure his contract.
Correct.
And he said that he's willing to do so.
Right.
So if depending upon where they get, right, and they restructure, I'm believing he stays if they can get him to restructure. But it's not to say that the front office might not pump fake on him and say, "Oh, you want to restructure? We still don't like that. We want to move on." So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But he is willing to restructure. The thing is he going to restructure to the liking of what Pittsburgh is going to want to do?
Yeah, I'm sorry I got sidetracked with Big Ben, but we can do one more
That's
quarterback.
fine.
We can do one more quarterback right quick. I saw you D9, so I kicked it back to Rashad.
Mm-hmm.
On a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the least likely, 5 being the most likely, the probability that Carson Wentz gets moved before next season.
Carson Wentz, 1 to 5?
Yeah.
4.
I feel
I'm
you.
going 4 because I mean they're saying Indianapolis and Chicago are
Indianapolis is perfect
heavy
for
favorites.
Yeah,
and it'll be interesting to see, especially with Frank Reich having that Andy Reid connection. So it'll be interesting. Well, I mean, he didn't necessarily play under Andy, did he? He didn't play under Andy, but he played under Peterson, who has the Andy connection.
correct. Yeah.
So, as a matter of fact, Frank was there in Philly with
Frank coached him.
Yeah, so
he was his
that's his boy. So if he can go ahead and get there and get comfortable there, it most definitely it'll be a situation that'll work out. And I keep saying this year in and year out, after losing Andrew Luck, if the Indianapolis Colts can go ahead and get consistency at the quarterback spot, they're going to be dangerous. And Rashad, I swear, when I saw Darius Leonard get drafted by the Colts, I said to myself, thank God he's not in the NFC East. But what happens? Week 2, he plays against Washington. And when he played in D.C., I said, no one else knew about him.
Right.
I'm sitting there shaking my head saying, uh-oh. And I told my dad I was watching the game with him. I said, watch out for 53.
Yep.
And he's like, who is 53? You'll see.
Ball.
You'll see. Yeah. And when he did it, I said, this defense is going to cause fits because not just him, a lot of players on that defense are fast. And they move to the ball and they
they're young.
plays.
And they're young.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they need to go ahead and hurry up and get another they can get a quality QB there. And if they can get Carson Wentz in there, a guy that has been able to lead a team to a 10-plus win record, it's not like this team is already not capable of it, even with that great defense, they'll be that much better. So, yeah, especially with a guy that knows the offense already.
Right. How about you, Rashad?
Yeah, I'll see Dwayne up one more and go 5 for Carson Wentz. I just think it's a matter of time. Not if, but when. He makes an excellent point. And I actually looked at Indianapolis too. I think him going to the Colts would give them, like you said, if they could get some more stability, he might be the guy that could add to that. But I think he'll get moved and probably before next year. With Hurts playing the way he has, and I think they're gonna move forward with Hurts and just take their chances with him. He seemed pretty solid. He had a pretty solid end to this year, and I agree. I'll say 5.
Yeah, I mean, Wentz to Indianapolis makes too much damn sense. I mean, Frank Reich is there. He was his old coordinator in Philly. He feels comfortable with them, right? I mean, remember when during the Super Bowl year in Philly when he got hurt against the Rams? He was having an MVP season. A lot of people forgot about that.
Most definitely was having an MVP season. Yeah.
I think give him and I'm pulling for the young man. You don't want to see a young man fail like this, right? So I think a change of scenery, especially going back to Frank Reich, will help him a lot. And he doesn't have anything to lose. I mean, he's in the division with Tennessee, right? Mm-hmm. So it's in Indianapolis. That's a small media market. He won't get hounded by talk shows or Philly's harsh on their sports stars. That's just the way it is. Yeah, we know this.
They're harsh on their cheesesteaks.
Yes.
Yes, they are.
They booed Santa Claus back in the day, so there you go. But
they beat up the fan mascot for watching. They beat up my man Chief Z. My God.
But the point is that I think Wentz to Indianapolis makes too much sense, and I think if Houston's going to make a move, going back to Watson real quick, it's going to have to be before the draft. If the draft comes and goes, it's still a Houston Texan. He's not going anywhere. They need a draft picks. They have no first nor second round pick. Houston doesn't. They don't have any first or second round picks. So if they want picks, they want to rebuild. They don't want to do it, but they might have to unload Watson if they want to get those picks for this year's draft. Because they could get those picks for him easily. It's a matter of just swallowing their pride if they want to do so or not. So
about Sam Darnold. And the approach.
Oh, yeah, Sam Darnold's another one. Yeah. You guys think he'll be on the way out too? Because I heard he might be staying. But
a lot of good young quarterbacks, at the top of that draft that could be selected. You think about Fields from Ohio State, the young quarterback from BYU. North Dakota State. That guy.
Trey Lance from North Dakota State.
A couple names. So I guess they're trying to figure out what they're gonna do, and with that predicament with Darnold, with new coach being in,
Exactly, yeah.
No allegiance to him.
So, I mean, Sam wasn't his guy. He just kind of walked in. Now he might want to get his own young buck in there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be, because the draft is in April. So the next month and a half is going to be very interesting. Because I think all these moves gets done before the draft.
Yeah.
If they're going to make a move.
Well, I mean, they had no choice. And then another guy real quick that we haven't discussed or another team that we haven't discussed real quick is what's going to happen in New Orleans. Now, of course, you have the situation with Drew Brees. I saw a report that Drew might be retiring. And if that is the case, another one of those mid-tier QBs will be on the negotiation shelf as well. And that would be Jameis Winston.
Right.
Because, of course, it's a huge possibility that New Orleans is going to want to bring back Jameis because they may not be happy with the way that Taysom Hill looked in his substitution during this past
Tim
year.
Tebow. That's what it was.
Yeah, basically, right? He had a lot of issues throwing the ball, and we know that Jameis can throw the rock. Now the question is whether or not he's going to throw it to his teammates or not. But that's more so.
Now maybe he'll be better. He got his eyes fixed. So
I was just about to say that, Rashad. I was just about to say that LASIK is known to do some wonders, and plus Bruce Arians' offense is known to be a guy that's not capable of turning the ball over into a turnover machine. You don't believe me? Look at Tom Brady and him throwing the most interceptions he's ever thrown in the season this past year. So if he can go ahead, he already knows the offense. If he feels comfortable being in New Orleans and believes he's going to be the starter there, it'll be very interesting to see whether or not he stays there or if he decides to go elsewhere. But Jameis is another name that I've heard bouncing around as a potential grab for a lot of teams that may not be comfortable with their quarterback spot right now.
All right, we're going to move to a totally different direction right quick. And I wasn't planning to do this before today, to be honest with you, but y'all heard what's going on with Mark Cuban in his decision not to go with the national anthem. Now, At first, he said that he was going to move away from it. He's been saying that like since last season. But the thing is, like, because he had apparently like he asked for the Commissioner Adam Silver's blessing, and Adam was like, "Hey, if you don't want to do it, you don't have to do it." And it turns out that I guess when it hit the news cycle late last night, and early today, he came around, turned around, and said that it's going to be a trial run, whatever that means. So. I'm of two minds here. For one, I'm old enough to remember where they didn't really play the national anthem at games, only at the Super Bowls, only the national championships. It wasn't really a thing until the NFL got in bed with the military, and as far as that in that case, and the NBA, I don't know if they did the same thing, but the NBA, we didn't really know about until the guy formerly known as Chris Jackson refused to stand back in the 90s. That's when we started to know about it. But to me, the national anthem, guys, means different things to different people. You know, I love this country. I know you two brothers love this country. But let's be real. And I think we're sharing a brain on this. The national anthem doesn't mean the same to me as much as I love this country as it does to my white neighbor. And that's just being honest. I've never been the type I take my hat off, but I usually just look down or look up. I rarely put my hand over my heart. And that's because of my own experiences. You know, I integrated a white neighborhood when we moved down from Brooklyn, New York, experienced all types of drama there. And my dad grew up he grew up in the Jim Crow South when it was during the turn of the Civil Rights Movement. So the Civil Rights Movement. My mother's from the North. So I have a different perspective than my white brother and sister. And I'm just being real about that. I'm sure you guys feel similar. I know many Black people and other people of color, particularly Latinos, Latinas, Native Americans especially, they have different feelings about it. So to me, it wouldn't hurt my feelings if they stopped doing the national anthem. And let's be real about one more thing. When was the last, you guys been to games, so when was the last time, if you're getting popcorn, you taking a piss doing the national anthem, and of course, you can hear, they pipe the sound out to the concessions and to the bathrooms. So it's not like you don't know. I don't know if it's different now, but the years I've spent going to games, live sporting events, college, pro, whatever, I've yet to see people in the bathroom stop taking the piss, put their hand on their heart, and take their hat off. I've yet to hear people straining from holding their shit in doing the national anthem or standing up on the toilet seat.
I knew it was
doing the national anthem. I've yet to see people talk in the bathroom. I've yet to and get drunk. I've yet to see those drunk people stop talking about each other's teams and put their hand over their heart, take off their hat, and do an national anthem. I've yet to see people at concession stands stop buying beer and say, wait a minute. I've yet to see that. I've yet to see people put their hot dogs down and overpriced French fries down, put their hand over their heart. You see what I'm getting at. To the point is, I think it's hypocritical for people to get up in arms about this stuff, about the anthem, and I can take it a couple steps further. I've yet to see people in sports bars stop what they're doing, stand up, or left hand over heart, and do that. I've yet to see people at Super Bowl parties do the same thing. I've yet to see any of that shit happen. And I've been going to games and going to Super Bowl parties for at least the last 10 plus years. I've yet to see that. So to me, the whole thing is hypocritical. I think it's a waste. It's like, why? I don't think people will get up in arms. I mean, hell, we stopped doing the Pledge of Allegiance and having references to God in elementary schools. And last I checked, they still go to class. Mm-hmm. They still take the school bus to school. They're still reading announcements in homeroom and go to lunch and go to recess and go home. So I'll say all that crap to say this. I think it's a much ado about nothing. I don't think that's big of a deal. If people, if all of a sudden the NBA and NFL, Major League Baseball and the like decide, you know what, we're not going to do this shit anymore. It's too controversial. It's not a big deal anyway. Let's just move on. I think a lot of the outrage is just ridiculous because again, if you've been to any sporting event, been to a sports bar, have you been to Super Bowl parties? Do they really stop what they're doing during the national anthem? No.
It's rare. It is very rare.
The ones I've been to, they don't. And this is a mixture of white, black, and any type of ethnicity or creed or whatever. So, yeah.
I'll say this real quick. Yeah. I've been a lot more cognizant of what's been going on during the national anthem, of course, since the Colin Kaepernick kneeling incidents, right? And I've started to notice people who, oddly enough, in the concession area that will stop and take their hat off, right? But it's few and far between. Right. I would say probably like maybe 2 people out of everybody that's out there in that section might do it, right? Mm-hmm. And to your point, yeah, you're better than me. I might not take my hat off. I'll stay seated. And I'll say this, like, I don't want how I feel about the country to rub off on my son. And with him being in the military now, he's probably going to be a little bit more militant. Sorry for the lack of a better term in terms of how he treats the national anthem. Sure. But, because I wanted his thoughts about the country to be his and not based on mine. Right. So whenever he would ask me or whatever, I would tell him. I wouldn't tell him not to stand or tell him not to do certain things. But yeah, I just noticed that, God, the obsession about what happens to the national anthem over the past couple of years has just been so crazy to me. I wish they would have focused on the issues and the problems that cause us not to want to stand during the national anthem as much as they are concerned about us not standing for it. You know what? If you were to focus your attention on why we're not standing, we probably would stand. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? If you go ahead and show us love, if you respect us, the same people who we've been considered to be 3/5 of a man, maybe we would go ahead and stand up during the national anthem, dude.
Right.
I'm just saying.
Just a matter of acknowledgement. I mean, and that's one of many examples. Again, three of us, we love this country. It's the best country in the world. We travel, so we know that for a fact. I'm just saying it means different things to different people, and that's being real.
It does. But yeah, dude, just focus on that stuff more than you focus on us not standing. And then I'll say this too, because I thought it was interesting. Scott, I don't know if you noticed it because I didn't hear you bring it up. Mm-hmm. But the NBA did come out with a statement today saying that, they're going to go ahead and mandate that all of the teams do play the national anthem before every game.
Okay. I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, they went ahead and made an announcement today.
Okay, got it. Okay.
Being based on a long-standing policy that they're going to
from the David Stern era, from the David Stern.
Yeah, that they're going to go ahead and mandate that all teams do this, and that's why I keep telling people, who believe that the NBA is better than the NFL. I'm like, but by how much? Right. I mean, yes, I get it. The owners are are leaps and bounds more progressive in the NBA than they are in the NFL. Yes, I get that. But when you talk about the league itself, based upon how they handle this stuff, the NBA, they do things in a nicer way. They do it Goodell just don't care. Goodell is just this blunt dude that says, hey, it's going to be my way. I'm doing what I can to protect this to protect this shield, and I'll die on this shield before I allow the integrity of this league to go down. Yeah. And that's based upon what I feel as though the integrity of this league is. And for them, of course, that includes the national anthem, unfortunately, to a certain degree, because, of course, now with certain things and the climate moving the way that it has, they started to waver on that a little bit, even though, of course, certain ownership still doesn't necessarily care. But this is just more evidence that, this long-standing policy, which could be changed, was the line from coming to America.
Which one?
The one, it's something to the effect of, who are you to not be able to change the law? You're the king.
Right.
Right.
So, dude, you're the commissioner. If you want to change this long-standing policy, that's potentially an issue within the league. Change it. You're the commissioner, dude.
Right.
You can do it. You have the power to do it. Or you can go ahead and talk to the other owners in the league and get it done. Don't go ahead and fall back on this thing. It's a cop-out to me to say, it's a policy. It's a long-standing policy of the league. We can't change it. Hey, if you really want to change it, you can go ahead and change it. So if you want to have that conversation, have that conversation, because it looks like your boy Mark Cuban wants to have it.
Yeah. Well, who are your thoughts, Rashad?
Quite simply for me, guys, it's hard for me to stand for an anthem living in a country where I know I have to have conversations with my 8-year-old son and soon to be with my 6-month-old, in a few years, about how to govern themselves outside, of my house, and how to govern themselves in society and not worry about whether you get home or not if you're driving a car, to have to have conversations with them about what to play with and what not to play with, because you can't play with this toy gun because it might look like a real gun and you might be, it might be mistaken, and next thing you know, you're on the news because you lost your life. This is just living in a society like this where it's so hard for Black and brown boys and just people of color in general. It's hard to. I try my best to be patriotic, and like you said, I love our country, but I'm with you guys. It's tough just knowing that we're still not given and afforded the rights that we deserve, and we've spent so many years fighting for, just to be equals in this country.
Yeah.
And the country still hasn't lived up to that. So again, as much as I want to, it's tough. I myself, honestly speaking, there's times when I'm at a ball game and it comes on and I'm thinking, should I stand or should I not?
Mm-hmm.
Like, should I really do it? And times I'm like, I don't care, because what's happening in the country ain't right. You know what I'm saying? And then there's other times, but yeah, that's my perspective on it. Just real quick with Mark Cuban,
yes.
I'm not surprised though, because he's been known to kind of, push the envelope a little bit and be different. When you think about the makeup of his team, not just minorities, but just international players. Yeah. You might have in the league. When you think about Doncic and Porzingis and bringing in other backgrounds, some minorities, but he's different, and he seemed to be brash when it comes to that. So I'm not surprised. I'm actually with him on that stance. As Dwayne said, I mean, just looking at where the league is headed with this, they're going back and, kind of siding on history. This is what we've done for so long, and because it's
right, we've been doing it this way,
right, right, and that just goes back to owners and what they feel is correct and what they want to do because they hold the power. But and I agree with him. It's not much better than the NFL. Maybe a little more progressive, maybe a little more leeway in terms of player contracts and affording players.
It's more of a players league, yes.
Right, but it's the same thing. Rich white billionaire owners who, at the end of the day, kind of want things their way, and kind of have the power to control those policies. And so that's my take on it.
Well, right quick, I was thinking about this, Dwayne, and you too, Rashad. We mentioned your sons. Like I said, my son turned 11 last month, and so my wife is more militant about it than I am. But the thing is that she's very liberal about it. But the thing is that we tell our son, like when we go to FC Cincinnati games or wherever, he says, stand up and put your hand over your heart. Because we got to set the example, right? We don't want to impose our views on him. Now, I think if he's anything like me and see he's been noticing how he's noticed how things, he goes to private school for crying out loud. So he sees stuff. He knows what's going on. He has 2 eyes. He's very intelligent. He's an intelligent young man. So he's going to do his own thing anyway. I just want we want him to have his own thoughts. So that's why we set the example. Hey, just put your hand over your heart, right, left hand, whatever, I forget which one. But put your hand over your heart, take your hat off, stand with respect. Now, if he was to say, you know what, Dad, I don't want to, Daddy, I don't feel comfortable standing. You know what? I will down and put my arm around him. I'll sit with him. I'm 6'4". No one's going to say much to me. I'm not worried about me. as long as I'm just worried about him. You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing. But
yeah, because Bammers will come out of pocket at sporting events, dude.
Yeah.
I've unfortunately heard about times where young kids have been told to perform sexual acts because they're wearing the T-shirt of another team. But I digress. But yeah, exactly. And I applaud you for that. To allow him to understand from his own perspective and allow him to make his own decision that way.
Yeah. So that's all I got to say. But I think we're all in agreement here. Look, it wouldn't hurt our feelings. Sounds like if they took away the national anthem at games, you know, life goes on. I could give a damn either way. If they want to have it, cool. If they don't want to have it, cool. I don't care. Again, because it's like people who get all up in arms, I think a lot of them, not all, I think some are sincere about it. But I think a lot of them are hypocritical because those are the same people you see at Super Bowl parties, going to the games, whether it be in the bathroom, buying beer, getting drunk at tailgate. They're not standing at the attention when the anthem's going on. If they're doing all of those things, they're still eating, they're still talking shit, they're still taking the shit, they're doing whatever. They're not doing anything. And that's fine. I'm not criticizing them for that. Because most of us don't. Outside of a sporting, outside the stadium, outside of if you're in the arena itself, if you're at your seats. I don't have a problem either way. But I just think it's pseudo patriotism for people who get up in arms for many people, because I think the whole thing is I think a lot of them are just being hypocritical based upon those things.
All right, can I say this real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, brother. Yeah,
wanted that quick little piece. It's for me, it's never been a disrespect to the flag. People try to make it that. There's been people, white, black, Latino, who fought for this country and have shed blood, and many of them paid the ultimate price, giving their life. And so I always salute those people who have served our country and have served us proudly, have risked their life. It's more so us being able to get our rights in this country and just being treated fairly and being treated like, with the utmost respect that a citizen deserves. That's the biggest thing. It's hard to do those things for your country when you're not treated fairly and you're being mistreated in your own country. And so that's what it's always been for me. I just want to see my people get their fair treatment. That's all. Right.
That's all we ask. Just equal treatment, no more, no less.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Those are the military that defend us, that understand that that's exactly what they're fighting for. They're fighting for our freedom to be critical of things that happen here. That's part of being free, to be able to do that, right?
Have the discussions that we're having now. Freedom of
speech.
Yes, without retribution. Without retribution.
All of the things that we're supposed to be able to be free to do, that's what they're fighting for, to continue to defend that, or so we're told, right? So for those that understand that, they understand the entire situation, and they don't begrudge those that choose to do what they do during the national anthem, because they know it's not disrespectful to the country. It's more so disrespectful to the conditions that are going on here. And like I said before, if they were to focus more so on what happens to us, as opposed to what is happening during that 1 minute and 16 seconds, then maybe things will be a lot better in terms of us standing for the national anthem.
Great discussion, fellas. Great discussion. Again, I came this close to not having it because of when it happened with Mark Cuban, but I've been down to have this type of discussion for a long time with y'all anyway, but this is a great discussion. I know we're going to have many discussions in the future because we ain't done with this shit. So I'm glad. I'm happy for this discussion. Great discussion. I'm proud of all y'all for doing so. So we'll close the show on this. As you know, Rashad, this is Black History Month, and we're doing the end of each show this month. We're going to be talking about a Black achievement that many people don't know about. So, for example, a lot of people know about Jackie Robinson, know about Hank Aaron, know about Willie Mays, know about who was another one? Jesse Owens,
right?
And even Tommy Smith and John Carlos in the next 68 Olympics. A lot of us know about that.
Right.
A lot of us know about Muhammad Ali. A lot of us know about Jim Brown. But we're going to touch upon the I call it little known sports Black history moments where I think it's neat. Like once people get to know and get to educate themselves more on Black achievement in sports, first Black achievement in sports, then I think it'd be really cool. So I'm gonna start off with it, and we're gonna give two. If you can only have one, that's fine too. So
Okay.
I'm gonna start, and Dwayne will follow, and then you'll cap things off, Sean.
Okay.
So my first Black history moment here I have is Debi Thomas. So some people don't know who Debi Thomas is, and that's fine.
Yeah, that's old school right there.
It's very old school because in 1986, I was 13 years old in 1986. So in 1986, she became the first African-American figure skater to win the women's title at the U.S. Figure Skating Championships. And she later went on to become the first African-American to win a medal at the Winter Olympics. So I remember Debi Thomas when I remember watching with my dad because I got my love of sports from my father. Rest in peace. And so he sat us, I remember him hearing about this. He sat my brother and I down because you don't care about figure skating, right? In the Winter Olympics, you care about hockey. If you care about the Winter Olympics, you care about hockey and skiing.
Yeah.
And later on, like what you call that when you skate around the rink, like not what you call that? It's not rollerblading, obviously. It's like rollerblading on ice.
Yeah, what is the speed skate? Is it speed skating?
Speed skating, yeah. It's later on it became speed skating. I became interested in speed skating. But anyway, the point is I remember my dad sitting us down, and my mom, who does not follow sports whatsoever, she came in the room. She's like, "Who's this Black girl on TV?" And so we watched her, and that's Debi Thomas. So 1986. And now you have this young lady, now I forget her name. Oh, God. I saw in the commercial today, she's like a teenager. But she's the next Black skating prodigy. She's American. I'll put up her name in a minute while you.
Oh, wow, okay.
But anyway, I don't want to waste the time. But the point is that she's the next one in line of great potential great Black African American skater. And so this next person, some of us know about, some of us don't.
Mm-hmm.
But some of us take him for granted. Jack Johnson, boxing. First Black heavyweight boxing champion. Mm-hmm. When he defeated James Jeffries in 1910. And so basically, just quick background, Jeffries talked some shit to Johnson, saying that he was, quote, going into this fight for the sole purpose of proving that a white man is better than a Negro. But in the 15th round of their match, for those those folks who know, who box historians, Jack Johnson knocked his ass out and handed Jeffries the first loss of his career. So basically, that led to what people tried to find the Great White Hype, and there was a movie.
Mm-hmm.
And for those who know, called The Great White Hype, played by James Earl Jones, the great James Earl Jones. I think it was the early 1970s.
Yeah.
That where he portrayed, I don't know if he portrayed Jack Johnson himself or Jack Johnson-like character. But the point is that they had the last scene of the movie where, this white boxer there in Cuba, where incidentally, where Jack Johnson lost his title to the Great White Hope, not Great White Hype, Great White Hope. Where they kept the crowd was counting down 1, 2, 3. This is in Cuba. All these white folks eager for Jack Johnson to lose his crown, or what's his name's James Earl Jones's character. So what really infuriated those same fans was that Jack Johnson was not shy about keeping company with white women.
But not at all.
He was not shy about that. To the point where they had a law that he was convicted on that prevented such a thing from happening. But since they crossed state lines, they travel, right? Mm-hmm. That became a federal offense. And so they acquitted him not too long ago. They pardoned him not too long ago, long after his death, obviously. But that's how they got him. It's kind of sounding similar to how they got Al Capone on tax evasion. They couldn't get him on the real stuff. Mm-hmm. They got him on tax evasion. That's kind of that's what kind of happened to Jack Johnson. They got him on his love of white women.
His love of white women. I swear.
Yeah, that's how they got him. But the point is that he's the first Black champion, African American heavyweight champion of the world, and that led to the likes of Joe Louis, who's a distant cousin of mine, and a few others like Ezra Charles. They got a street named after him in Cincinnati, Ezra Charles, and as well as a few others. So, and later Muhammad Ali. So, it started the succession of Black heavyweight champions of the world. So, props to Jack Johnson and props to Debi Thomas before that. So, D, I'll give you the floor.
All right. I'm sorry I stole this one from you, Scott, but this one
I figured you would, though.
This one's actually cool because I'm going to actually tie this one in to not only last week's conversation, but a little bonus as well. So let me start. So the person who I'm going to talk about is Bill Nunn. Now, I was vaguely familiar with Bill Nunn, but for those that paid attention, Bill Nunn was just announced to be one of the new inductees as a contributor into the Pro Football Hall of Fame.
Right.
So for those who, like I said before, unfamiliar, he was a scout and he was an assistant director of player personnel there for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Is it personnel? No, he was an assistant personnel director, there for the Pittsburgh Steelers between 1968 to 2014. So he was there for all of the Super Bowl years.
Right.
What makes Bill Nunn so important, like I said before, he was a scout there, and he was, of course, very instrumental with helping draft a lot of the players there. That was part of that huge dynasty, especially during the 70s for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and then, of course, again in the 2000s. Now, what makes Bill Nunn so special is that he was very knowledgeable about players from HBCUs. Why would you say he was so knowledgeable about players from HBCUs, my ass? First and foremost, he worked with the Pittsburgh Courier, a very famous African-American newspaper during the early part of the 20th century. That also covered HBCU athletics heavily. And as a matter of fact, they were the first publication to do an HBCU. They were the first ones to do the HBCU poll and crown the HBCU champion in football. So, with that said, of course, while he was there at I'm going to call him the Postal Courier, my old job there in Charleston. While he was at the Pittsburgh Courier, he was a sports writer there, where he eventually became the sports editor and the managing editor there at the Courier. That led to him, his knowledge of players for writing for the Courier led to him becoming a scout and eventual personnel assistant there for the Steelers, which led to them drafting such greats as L.C. Greenwood, Mel Blount, and John Stallworth, to name a few.
Yeah.
Right during that 70s period. Also, why is Nunn knowledgeable about HBCUs? Because he graduated from one. He is a graduate of one with West Virginia State University, where he was also a teammate of ding, 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 ding. One of the guys we talked about last week, Chuck Cooper, who was there at West Virginia State for a season, along with the great Earl Lloyd. Earl Lloyd is big here in DC area because he's right here from Alexandria, went out to West Virginia State, where, of course, Cooper was the first one to be drafted into the NBA. Lloyd was the first to ever play in the NBA. So that's another Black history fact there. But one more interesting fact. I thought the name Bill Nunn sounded familiar. Then it hit me. Yo, his son, Bill Nunn Jr., is the famous actor. Bill Nunn Jr., who went and graduated from Morehouse in the late 70s, was a classmate of one, Spike Lee. Bill Nunn is known for a lot of roles in Spike Lee movies, most notably Radio Raheem.
Yes, that's him. Okay.
Shout out to the homie Radio Raheem.
Wow.
And he also played Grady in School Days. And of course, he's also known as Dutta Man in New Jack City. So Then you go with Bill Nunn and the ties in which, matter of fact, Grady is one of the few HBCU athletes in cinema. The only other time that an HBCU sport was discussed in cinema was the movie The White Tiger, starring one Ben Vereen and the former Bruce Jenner as the quarterback there at Grambling. So there you go with a couple of my black college, not just black college, but black sports facts.
Wow. That's outstanding. I didn't know. I couldn't put together Bill Nunn Jr., even though he's technically the third, but still, yes. I didn't put that together with Bill Nunn Sr., if you will, even though he's really a junior.
He's really junior, yeah.
Yeah. I did not put that together. He's from Pittsburgh. He's from Pittsburgh.
And he's from Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow. That's crazy. He died young though, but that's still crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah, we lost Nunn in 2016. Yeah. 2016, 2017.
Radio Raheem. Damn. I did not put that together all these years. Especially in school days too. He was awesome school days.
Yeah, playing Grady. Yeah, that entire movie, I know it led to a lot of people attending HBCU.
Correct.
But yeah.
That in a different world.
That in a different world.
Yeah. Different world, yeah.
But yeah, I had to shout out Bill Nunn and Bill Nunn. Yeah.
There you go. Rashad, you gonna close us out?
Cool. So being that I'm a noob, shout out to the noobs.
Yep.
You know, we gotta throw 3 up, and so I'm gonna add an extra one if you don't mind.
Go ahead, brother.
I won't be long. But I want to shout out my hometown, Lake City, South Carolina. And being that I'm from Lake City, we have a lot of history in our small town. If you haven't heard of Lake City, it's near Florence, South Carolina, maybe 20 or so miles south, and kind of in fitting with what we were talking about earlier, Scott. I want to go against the grain a little bit and start with somebody who may not be a sports figure, but I think someone that needs to be mentioned in terms of when we think about Black history, and that's Ron McNair. And I think you guys,
yes, sir,
appreciate that, being that you're both A&T alums, because Ron,
yes, sir,
big A&T alum. So hopefully y'all don't mind me going away from sports.
That's fine.
Oh no, when you said Lake City, I had an idea where you were going with it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and so I take a lot of pride in knowing that I'm from the same city as such an accomplished man, and not just that, he knew my grandfather very well. They were very close friends, and like I said, me and Scott talked a little bit about it earlier, but Ron McNair was, as you know, an astronaut, and that was big coming from a small town, growing up in the rural South. You think about Jim Crow times, where and there's a story of the library, which is now named after him, that he couldn't even check out books from. Right,
that's something else.
Denied him. Yeah, they denied him access to books, which he was a scholar, and so he wanted to go get books on astronomy and physics and so many of these other great subjects, because he was a student of the game, so to speak, as it came to academics, and so they denied him access to the books, and he actually, as a little boy, stood up on the counter and said, "You guys are going to let me check out these books." So much to the point to where even to the white to the white librarian, she felt like a child was causing such a disturbance. They called the cops. He waited till the cops got there. They called his mom. He was still there. And so much to the point to where they said, "Look, hey, let's get this man a library card." So he was actually the first to pave the way for African American. He was the first African American to get a library card in the Lake City Public Library, and paved the way for others to come and do so. So I thought that was huge.
As a child, that's awesome.
Library that at the time refused him the right to get books, and it was only for white kids, right, or white adults at the time. Now is named after him in Lake City, and I go there all the time, and so that's huge. Not a lot of people know about Ron McNair, but like you said, A&T grad.
He's royalty. His name is royalty.
Right. Have a building there at A&T named after him.
McNair Hall, yes, sir.
Right. I think out of about 75,000 plus applicants, was one of 8 chosen to be an astronaut and be on. He actually had already gone to the moon once, came back. He knew my grandfather. My grandfather was one of the organizers that helped have his parade when he came back home from his first trip.
Wow.
Right. And I have a big or a plaque where he wrote a letter to my grandfather, and it actually has a patch from one of his NASA spacesuits. I'll share with you guys. I have a picture.
Yo, that's dope.
That's cool, man.
Memoir to my grandfather, who has passed as well, but he was a good friend of the family. Also went to the church that I go to. He was a member of Wesley United Methodist Church in Lake City, South Carolina, which I'm proud to say, again, I'm a member of, and he was as well.
Mm-hmm.
And he was an accomplished saxophonist, and actually
I heard about that.
So maybe the karate piece is, kind of sports.
Yes.
The black belt in karate.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. If you look in old A&T yearbooks, you will see him doing. I forget who that instructor was because he was still at A&T when I got there, and he would talk about that because I think he was in the physics department. But yes, if you look in old A&T yearbooks, you can find them online. I'll share the link with you guys. Yes. You can see him doing karate in the yearbooks. Yo, I forgot about that, Rashad. God.
Yeah, and pretty good football player when he played, as well as as a youth. But his mind was set on being the scholar that he was, and actually went on to MIT and got his doctorates in his doctorate in I want to say it was like rocket science. I forget the exact term that it was, but he was a rocket science, a rocket science. You have that saying, well, you're not quite a rocket scientist. He actually was. And that's what he did. And so became a physicist and an astronaut, an astronaut, and I'm extremely proud of him. So that's my first one. Ron McNair. So many schools and parks and different things named after. I promise you, I didn't even know, being from Lake City, until I actually researched it. And this is a crazy story. I was driving around in Charleston, South Carolina one day, and just kind of got lost. I wasn't using my GPS. I like to navigate my own way, especially if I'm in a place I'm not very familiar with, and kind of, see around town and find my way. And I actually rode upon a school, and I looked up, and the building said Ronald E. McNair Junior High, and I didn't even.
There's a McNair Junior High School in Charleston.
Right. Actually, there's a Ron McNair Junior High School in Lake City that's named after him, but a high school in Charleston, South Carolina that's named after him as well. Yes, wow. I didn't know well until I happened to stumble upon. This was years. It's still there to this day. Charleston, South. Yeah, and then I did my research. There's so many other schools. I'm talking about all the way up to New York and Jersey. Yeah. Schools and parks and different places named after him. And so I just want to throw that name out there, Ron McNair, from Lake City, South Carolina. Also, I don't know if you guys ever heard of this name. He's also from Lake City. Derrick Faison. He was a Howard player, played football at Howard. He's from Lake City, South Carolina in the 80s. And I want y'all to look up that name, Derrick Faison, if you don't mind. DRRICKFAISON. But he's from Lake City. Played for the Rams for a year. He actually, after he finished his career, he died actually due to cardiac arrest. But huge career in Lake City in high school. I mean, it was enough. He was averaging 40 easily. I mean, could take them. I excelled in all three sports: football, baseball, basketball. I mean, was the athlete. He was supposed to go to Clemson, right? But ended up, there was an incident with him in a club one night, and somebody ended up getting killed. He happened to be there. One of his home, he didn't do it, of course, but he was, I guess, with someone who actually partook in those. And so a lot of schools passed on him because of that incident, right? Took wind of that and passed on him. But Howard actually took a chance on him. He is actually royalty at Howard. Was a big time receiver, ended up getting drafted by the Rams. And so he stayed in California, in LA, after his career was over. And he actually became a teacher and actually ended up being like very heralded in the public school sector, and changed the course for a lot of students, and kind of ended his career there. And like I said, he died at a young age because of cardiac arrest. And but he was that's a name that a lot of people don't know about, that I think people should. Derrick Faison.
Wow.
The last one being, I said I was going to do 3. This will be quick. Real quick. We think about Earl the Pearl Monroe, right?
Yes.
And I know you guys know who he is, but Winston-Salem State graduate. You know, he's a big guy when it comes to playing for the Knicks, right? Knicks legend, right? Legend in Philly, a legend in New York, but he could fill it up. I think he averaged 41, if I'm not mistaken, in college, man.
Yeah,
41 and a half points, man, and played under Earl, big games.
He played
Clarence Big House Games.
Yeah. Clarence Big Games. Yeah, not Earl. I'm sorry, Clarence Big Games. The coach, the legendary coach at Winston State, which Stephen A. Smith talks about all the time on First Take, because he's a graduate of Winston-Salem State.
Yeah.
And so, Earl the Pearl Monroe. Some people, of course, know about him, but when I look back at him and what he's accomplished, I think more people should know. So those are my three.
Oh yeah, real quick on Earl Monroe. Of course, he started out a Baltimore Bullet, so he started out here, and of course his number 10 is retired here. Even though as a rookie he wore 33, but his number 10 is retired here. And for also another tie-in to who we just talked about not too long ago, in the movie He Got Game. Of course, Jesus Shuttlesworth is named after Earl Monroe. One of his nicknames was
Black Jesus.
Black Jesus.
Yep.
Yes.
Wow. Big.
He was the first guy to perfect for his dribbling style, like the wraparound they call, like you dribble, you go this way and go that way. He was one of the first dudes with a handle, with a mean handle.
Right.
So that's what he's known for. And one last thing about Earl the Pearl. In Winston-Salem, obviously, when he went to Winston-Salem State, this dude was during the height of the civil rights movement, right? So to the point where I think Billy Packer, he was a Wake Forest graduate. He played at Wake Forest a few years before. I think when what's his name? When Earl the Pearl went to Winston-Salem State. But the point is that when Packer was at Wake Forest, he used to scrimmage Clem, I forget his last name, when he was a star at Winston-Salem State behind closed doors, because it was against the law to have assembly between white and blacks. So they had to play their games in private, to the point where, like, he tells a story that Big House Gaines accidentally opened up the gymnasium on campus and saw Wake Forest guys playing his guys. He closed the door back quickly because he knew that if they were going to get caught, those young men would be in trouble. So they would do that throughout the year, so that because Wake Forest was very good during those days, as was Winston-Salem State. So they would play each other, where it's the summer, throughout the year, just to test each other.
Yeah.
Right.
So they did that for years, and they, to the point where they play each other. They would, before COVID, they would play each other in the regular season. But right quick, when Earl the Pearl was at Winston-Salem State, they had to move these games to Winston-Salem Coliseum because people wanted to see him. Because he was such a baller, they were like, so even the white fans from other schools, they wanted to see him. White press, so they would play at the bigger Winston-Salem Coliseum outside of campus, on the other side of town actually, so that they could see Earl the Pearl play. So that was the impact. Of course, that's the only. He led them to the Winston State as the only HBCU to win a title in basketball.
No, they're not.
Oh, they're not? Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Remember, we talked about this last week. Remember, Cheney State won.
Cheney State,
national title in '79.
Right, but they were the first to do it. Winston State was the first.
They were the first to do it.
The first to do it.
Yes.
Right. So
yeah, they won that title in '67.
Right. So
there were like 4 or 5 HBCUs that won national titles on the D2 level, along with, of course, Virginia Union. Of course, they did it while Rick Mahorn was there, and a couple of other years as well. UDC also won a title there on the D2 level back in '82. That '82 squad was monstrous.
Right.
And then this wasn't an HBCU, but I think the first D1 during segregation. With the all black starting 5, what was it? It's now standing. What is it? Texas El Paso.
Yeah, UTEP.
Yes, UTEP. Yeah,
UTEP was the first black all black starting 5.
Right. They used to be called Texas Western back in the day.
Yeah, Texas Western.
Yeah.
Now, UTEP. Yeah.
Yeah. So now the UTEP. That's interesting. I've never seen Glory, so I'm gonna check out Glory one of these days. because that's like great history with that.
Yeah.
Rest in peace, John Haskins, Coach Haskins. So we're now in the random shit segment of the show. Right quick, I want to say rest in peace to Marty Schottenheimer. He passed yesterday. A lot of people remember him as the guy who couldn't win the big one per se, but he was a damn good regular season head coach. And he turned around the Cleveland Browns in the 80s and 90s. And he did the same thing.
Speaking of, man, the Washington Post was real disrespectful with a headline that they released. I forget exactly what it was. Yeah, they was real disrespectful when they made that announcement about Schottenheimer dying
or something like that.
Yeah, I was like, come on, dude. He just passed away.
Yeah. So, and of course, he's also the first. I don't know if it's the first, but to me, he might be the only coach in NFL history to be fired after going 14-2 with the Chargers.
Yeah, that's great.
Remember the stupid ass general manager? Yeah. So, but rest in peace to Schottenheimer. He's a good dude, and from what I understand, and his son is still coaching somewhere. Used to be in Seattle, but he's coaching somewhere.
Yeah, he just got fired out of Seattle. Yeah.
Right. So there you go. So I think that's all I could think of from a sports perspective. Anything else? Any random shit y'all got? Any of you got?
Yeah, a couple of things real quick. Let me go ahead and run through this gauntlet real quick. First and foremost, since you're doing rest in pieces, God, I shouldn't have said rest in pieces. That just sounds worse.
Yeah, that sounds
Leon Spinks passed away.
Yes, he did.
This past week. Unfortunately, Spinks was the lesser of the Spinks brothers.
Right.
Even though he still beat Ali.
Right.
I'm still trying to understand how he was capable of getting a fight with Ali with only 8 fights under his belt and beat Ali in a split decision for his 8th overall win. But of course, he would subsequently end up losing to Ali in that next fight. But yeah, the Spinks family was a dynamic boxing family. Like I said before, Leon and his brother Michael were both Olympians. Mm-hmm. Leon most definitely won a gold medal. And of course, Michael was also a heavyweight champion until, of course, subsequently losing his title to Mike Tyson. Right. Leon's Mike's record was 31-3 all time, well, opposed to what Leon's record was. But Leon, also his son, Corey Spinks, was also a great boxer. So that entire Spinks boxing family was full of nothing but champions. Also, on the rest in peace front, professional wrestler, the natural Butch Reed passed away over the weekend due to COVID complications. For those who aren't familiar, Butch Reed wrestled Big South, WWF, NWA, won World Tag Team Championship with one Ron Simmons, who of course will become the first African American to ever win a World Heavyweight title in professional wrestling on the higher ranks, WCW, NWA, and WWF. But yeah, Butch Reed had a lot of classic feuds with JYD, Tito Santana, Don the Rock Morocco, and the Four Horsemen, Steiner Brothers. But yeah,
love the Four Horsemen.
Butch Reed.
Love the Four Horsemen.
And Butch Reed was one of my favorites because he had that street talk with his promos. Yeah. So, anybody had that street talk, I love that hood talk. That was a favorite of mine. But also real quick in the HBCU sports front, yes. Unfortunately, Alcorn State and Norfolk State have both announced that they will not be playing this spring due to complications due to COVID. The MEAC right now is kind of searching to try to figure out exactly what they're going to do with their schedule. I'm hoping they haven't decided in the past couple of hours because I haven't been around the phone to find out exactly. But yeah, right now, the MEAC is now down to 5 teams participating this spring in football, which is going to be very weird. Yeah. And also, Howard has decided to finally put an end to their men's basketball play. Of course, once again, COVID's been a monster, which puts an official end to McCord Maker's season, even though McCord hasn't played since game number 2, where he was dealt with a season-ending groin injury. But yeah, Howard hasn't played ball since December this year. So they've been dealing with COVID and trying to fend COVID off for the past couple of months. They just went ahead and just decided to call it a wrap. this earlier this week.
Wow.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Real quick for me, rest in peace, John Chaney, as we know, legendary basketball figure and coach. That was sad to see him go. But one positive I did see from it, Dawn Staley, I don't know if you guys saw that. In her last, they played UConn. She paid tribute to him by dressing in his attire, and I thought that was pretty dope, paying tribute to him. But legend. Definitely, that goes without saying, John Chaney. And then also, this one was a little bit before, but Hank Aaron. Aaron passed since I think we last had the show. So
I'm still sad about that.
Yeah, baseball royalty, legend. I mean, arguably one of the best ever to lace up the cleats and pick up a bat. But he's huge, especially in the Atlanta area and in the South. And they love him there.
Right.
So just rest in peace to him. Just not only what he did on the diamond, but what he was doing for the city of Atlanta, what he was doing for minorities and kind of serving as that figure, especially for African Americans in the city of Atlanta. Just his relationship with the children in the schools and partnerships with so many different initiatives to push the ball forward and as it relates to race relations and just making society better in that area. He was a big effect. So rest in peace to both of them.
Yes, sir.
Good stuff. And on that note, we're going to wrap it up. Thank you guys for joining me on this podcast, and thank y'all for listening. Again, check out Dwayne Nash on the Yard HBCU Sports, raps about all things HBCU sports, as well as Sleazy Radio every Tuesday on Facebook Live. Also check out his great work on herosports.com, rest about FCS Sports as pertains to HBCUs. And thank you to my man, Rashad Myers at the bottom for hanging out with us. And as well, please subscribe to the YouTube channel. We'll be glad, and you'll be glad that you did. And get the merch, coverpress.com.
Get that merch.
And search for the Clown Time Sports. I have the address, the link at the bottom in the comments section. In the description. And one last thing, if it's not snowing here, like snowing here or whatever, stay your ass at home. If you go out, wear a mask. We got the vaccine, but we gotta still stay safe, y'all. We gotta make it. So wear a mask, wash your hands if you do go out. And also take care of yourselves. Have a great weekend. God bless y'all. Enjoy your life. And until next time, I'm out.
Rest in peace, Dilla. Detroit in the house.
Dilla, rest in peace. Peace out.